We were still in the learning process. We went over there and we saw how smoothly it went and how much better the food was and how it was comparatively priced. And we just, a business manager and Ron and I looked at each other and said, we got to do this. We just have to do this. I went right to the board and I just said, you guys got to trust me on this. Come to this open house. Quest scheduled the open house. Just come taste this food and as soon as everyone tasted the food, they said, yeah, do whatever you want. We talked about how our history with our previous provider had been such a long history and how consistent and rock solid it was and affordable. So giving that up was, we had to decide that we were willing to do that. But once we did, after that, it was piece cake. It looks and runs like a blue chip, but you've got the relationship and small company feel. So it's really the best of both worlds. Big enough to do it well and right, but small enough where you don't feel like you're just another customer. If you had asked me whether or not 100% positive feedback was possible on anything that a school did in a community our size, I would have said no. I'm not saying that there have only been 3 complaints in the last couple years. I'm saying that there have been 0 complaints about anything. We notified them what the new cost of lunches were going to be. They came out in hundreds of parents at our open house, at our kickoff event. Parents walked in thinking our kids are going to pay how much, how many cents more a lunch? And they tasted the food and they're like, okay, never mind. I'm sorry, because they were getting triple the value for marginally more. And it's really the only thing I've ever seen done in schools that the feedback has been 100% positive. Our community is delighted. You can't do an undertaking like feeding a couple thousand kids every day. You can't undertake something like that without there being challenges. It's just too complicated of a thing to do it perfectly every day. Quest's response over and over again was, don't worry about it. That's our job to worry about that. You don't worry about that. You've told us what we can't have, what 146 can't have anymore, and you just won't have it. It immediately gave us comfort and made it so that it wasn't our problem anymore. Quest was just going to handle it. Some of the strengths of our previous provider was it was consistent. And of course, those are wild cards when you're talking about real foods that are prepared fresh. Every meal is different. So we had worries about losing the consistency and dependability that we had with the previous company, because we really our only complaint was the quality of the food. Quest came on board, and sure enough, it is a much more difficult undertaking to produce fresh foods. They knew what they were doing right away, and during the transition, they were able to improvise and figure out what's going to be the best way for us, what's going to be the 146 way to do this, and they adapted very quickly to that. We didn't have the facility space to make it work. We didn't have the kitchen space to prepare the foods ourselves. So we entered into a relationship with District 135 where we have an intergovernmental agreement where they essentially, Quest prepares our food at District 135, and then we shuttle the food over to our 146 schools. And the proximity is such that we don't compromise freshness or anything, and we've been really satisfied so far. Really, I think the majority of people have just grown accustomed to crummy school lunches. Society's really not satisfied with that anymore, and there's been, a number of things in the media and TV shows, reality type TV shows, that are starting to draw attention to what we're feeding our children. It's not schools' responsibility to cure childhood obesity, but it's our duty not to contribute to it. We can't force every kid to eat their vegetables. We can't force every kid to not bring a bag of Cheetos and a Snickers bar and a this and a that in their lunch every day. But the foods that we're going to be serving kids, the foods that District 146 is going to be responsible for providing kids, have to be healthy choices. And that's just something that we committed to and we believe very deeply in. Like I said, they were accustomed to our food service company for years and years and years. Before we even tried to sell that. I wanted to get Quest in here. I wanted to get the parents in here to taste it. To a parent at that event said it would be worth substantially more than we were charging in order to have their kids exposed to those foods. I was really nervous about that. You know, you want your community to feel like they've got an affordable, value-driven option at lunch. And after that Quest event, even at a bit higher rate, they were convinced that they were getting good value. Well, it's usually not obvious in education whether or not you make the right call. Usually you have to study it for a while and look at the results and compare it. And we knew it was the right thing to do. The implementation couldn't have gone better, and everybody was immediately satisfied. This has been a no-brainer from the beginning.